Hey everybody, this is Patrick Suga with Suga Real Estate Services, coming at you in Fort Collins in my new office. Hopefully it's a little bit better sounding this time. Trying to get a little bit better lighting as well, but we'll continue to work on that. Today we'll be working on what is days on market and why is it important, and figure out what that means for you as buying property and investing in property. What's also interesting today is I'll be working with a friend of mine talking about different things. So if I'm not necessarily looking at the camera, it's because I'm just working with him. So anyways, so days on market, why is it important? We talked about inventory on the market. 6 months is kind of like an equilibrium. Anything less than is seller's market, and anything more than is a buyer's market. And that's kind of what days on market will tell you. Right now we're around 40 days on the market. And if that starts to tick up, which you won't see until properties start selling, but it will just tell you that basically properties are sitting on the market longer than they are, which will generally increase inventory and ultimately possibly decrease prices. So it's a trailing indicator of what the market's doing. So that's why it's important to keep track of essentially inventory and days on market. Those two things will tell you what the market's doing. Retroactively, how is it calculated? It's dependent upon each state, I should say that. So it's dependent upon each state. Some are essentially once it goes under contract and then close. Others are, like Colorado. The way that Colorado calculates days on market is the day that we go live on the MLS is day 1, and the day that we close, sign, transfer of deed is the final day on market. So essentially, like I said, we're about 42 days here in Fort Collins right now. So that means it's on the market for 42 days from the day that it goes live to the day that it closes. So in Colorado, we have a contract that generally, like for your standard house, like closes in 30 to 45 days. And what that means is basically when you go under contract, you have your 30 to 45 days of due diligence. And that includes your inspections, your appraisals, title work, pretty much all encompassing to make sure that when you buy that house, everything is basically taken care of. Colorado is a very buyer-friendly state, essentially meaning for whatever reason, you can cancel the contract and get your earnest money back. If you don't like the noise that the neighbors make when you're over there, inspecting the house, you can cancel the contract and you'll get your full earnest money back. So if a standard contract is 30 to 45 days and our current days on market, or DOM, is 42 days, basically what that's saying is that the property is only going to sit on the market for 5 to 10 days before there's a contract offer on it and potentially going under contract. So there's truly no time on the market. It's an extremely quick moving market. For every property that's coming onto the market is going off the market, and it's very fast. So as a buyer and an investor, you need to know exactly what you want, what your parameters are, and how you're gonna move.
So for the 42 days, that's including that 30 to 45 days
right.
After this contract.
So literally you're only having about 5 to 10 days to see the property before people are either bidding on it or it's going under contract. And that's median. This is current days on market, and I should say this is median. So there could be properties that sit longer, and that's what we'll discuss next is why are properties sitting longer on the market? What could that mean for that property? Alrighty, so what could impact days on market are a lot of different things, and these are just some of them, right? If it's overpriced, we have a property on the market right now, maybe it's overpriced. It's sitting a little bit longer, not getting as much activity as I would think. And generally what will move a property is the right price. So that could impact, days on market. If it needs substantial work, that kind of coincides with being overpriced because let's say, to your question that you asked, what makes a safe deal? If I'm buying something for $100,000 under what market is and it needs $50,000, I'm still gonna have $50,000 of equity. But if I'm buying something for market and it needs $50,000 worth of work, well, really on $50,000 underwater. So that kind of coincides with overpriced. Location. I have a property on Riverside, which to some isn't necessarily that sexy. But to me, I love that it's commercial zoning, sits in a great location, it's downtown, but it's a busy road. And even though the property literally right behind me might sell for $1 million, my property might sell for $400,000. You know, so location could affect what's on the market. And again, will coincide with overpriced, because if I give a good enough deal, someone's taking it, right? And also price of home. One thing that I'll talk about here shortly is over the years, what different price points have done as far as days on market. And in general, $1 million home is gonna sit on the market in Fort Collins. In Boulder, $1 million home is almost like the median, right? But in Fort Collins, the median price is $450,000 right now, $480,000 right now. And $1 million house is double that. So it's just gonna sit on the market a little bit longer. We don't have as many buyers at that price point, so your days on market is going to increase. Interest rates rising. In the market that we're in, you know, all we've seen is interest rates decreasing, but if interest rates are rising, the cost of that home is going to be increasing, so people's excitement to buy that house might not be necessarily there. And a poorly marketed home, honestly, this is like where you can come in and see that a house is in a different type of zoning. Like I see it all the time in downtown Fort Collins specifically. A house is zoned as residential, but it's really, you know, a medium density zone where I could add an ancillary dwelling on the back of it. I could have potential office space there, and that changes the value of the home dramatically. And what could mean that it's, you know, sitting on the market longer than it is shoot, you know, what if they have it? I see too many realtors put on the property, you know, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars higher than what they're supposed to. And it's on the market for 3 days before they catch it. And all of a sudden that adds 3 days to like just lost marketing. So it's really important that you do like all of the right marketing and see that as an opportunity, right? If something's like, no way, can't be, like, I'm gonna go look at that house and then see what the deal is. And you might be able to get an opportunity before somebody else. Right now we see a lot of this. But for whatever reason, between interest rates being extremely low, Fort Collins being extremely desired to live in, uncertainty can cause massive pause. I've worked with many buyers and sellers that are this year that have just kind of pumped the brakes and said, I'm gonna wait till this kind of boils over. Specifically now the uncertainty we're seeing is more political. You know, who's gonna win the presidential race? What does that mean? Economically, what does mortgage forbearance look like? What does unemployment look like? So those things, the certain parts of uncertainty can cause days on market to increase just because buyers are more cautious. Seasonality, just like inventory, seasonality, we're gonna see days on market increase during the winter months and decrease during the summer selling season. And supply and demand imbalance, ultimately, if inventory starts popping, and like we talked about earlier, if there's 4 houses that are 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot houses in the same neighborhood, comparatively to one house in that same neighborhood, that house is going to be eaten up, whereas there might be opportunity to bid down one of the 4 other properties. So supply and demand is going to be your basic kind of like determinant of days on market and inventory and things like that. Basically, based off of our last conversation of like what could affect days on market, I think a really big important question to ask yourself is the impact temporary or permanent? And what I mean by that is for days on market, if it's increasing, and why is it increasing? Per those questions, and is that increase temporary or permanent? And the examples I've got are seasonality. So winter months, we're a summer selling season. So like days on market's going to decrease in the spring, summer, increase in the fall, winter. But the best example I have of something that might impact the days on market, inventory, real estate market in general, economy in general, is Flint, Michigan, right? So they have tainted water, they have bad water, and that's not going to be resolved anytime soon. So people are going to be selling their homes. They're going to sit longer because there's going to be more inventory. Days on market are going to increase, and it's not going to increase until that issue is resolved and people feel safe to move back to an area like that. Something that could happen in Fort Collins that could affect days on market and inventory potentially is one of the big drivers of population growth between 2015 on we're a green state. we were one of the first green states. So people from all over the country were moving to Fort Collins. And so our population growth was pretty dramatic and our market was going bananas. And what if federal government puts the kibosh on it, makes it completely illegal, and any states that are allowing it, that are federal penalty, which it currently is, but they're just kind of hands off. But what if they start enforcing that? And people are like, well, if I can't live here because it's a green state, I'm gonna go back home to, Waukon, Iowa. No offense, Waukon, Iowa, and live there. So there could be a mass exodus potentially. So that is, you need to know if it's a temporary or a permanent impact to know what the market's doing. And that's where some critical thinking, understanding the market, politics, economy, everything like that you just need to stay involved. What has Fort Collins done, and what over the years supply, demand, inventory, days on market could look like? And so what I looked at was different price points. So $250,000 to $399,000, $400,000 to $599,000, $600,000 to $799,000, and $800,000 plus in 2010, 15, and 20. So let's just start with the $250,000 to $399,000 of, in 2010, it took 90 days to sell a house in that price point, right? So that means it's being marketed essentially for 60 days. 60 days it's sitting on the market before it sells. And then in 2015, we jumped down to 43 days. Essentially, like, the market's going bananas, and we pretty much stayed at that constant 41 days. So anything in that price point is just moving, right? $400,000 to $599,000. Well, considering in 2010 and 2015, our median price point was much lower than it is now, that was still a higher price point. And so they're gonna sit on the market 114 days in 2010, 60 days in 2015. And now with it being our median price point, well, it's gonna sit for 41 days. That's where the demand is. And then again, jumping down even to a higher price point, which is still, I would say, considered more luxury today's market, but super luxurious back in 2010, 158 days, 69, and now it's 56. So it's still moving pretty quick. I mean, if you take into consideration that a contract will last 30 to 45 days, when you get to the higher price points, they'll probably last a little bit longer. The contracts will probably be more 40 to 50 days, just because there's more due diligence, it's a higher price point generally. But still, 56 days, that means it's sitting on the market for maybe 5 to 15 days before it's going under contract. So, and then $800,000 plus, 119, really that's a kind of a bad number. There wasn't any houses that sold in August of 2010 at that price point. And that was the only figure was from one house in 2010 in November. But in 2015, a few more houses sold, it jumped to 118. And now even at $800,000 plus, you're looking at 57 days on market. Ultimately, you have to ask yourself, what is the market doing? Why is it behaving that way? And here in Fort Collins, it's going to be a supply and demand issue and an inventory issue. So when inventory is constrained as it is, interest rates where they are, days on market are going to drop. So my name is Patrick Suga with Suga Real Estate Services. I appreciate you watching. This has been my kind of analysis and why days on market are important and what that means to you, your investing and brokerage. Feel free to reach out, subscribe, like, comment, and thanks for watching.